What's up, friends? I'm Jonathan Miller, and welcome back to Jonathan Miller Music, where we help each other become better artists. I get a lot of requests to do more J-pop content, so today I thought I'd share 5 things you may not know about J-pop and the Japanese music industry. If you're curious about J-pop or just want to know a little bit more about the sheer size and scope of it all, then this video will hopefully teach you something new. So hit that like button and subscribe if you're new so you don't miss my future uploads. Leave me a comment letting me know if you discovered something interesting today or if you have any more questions. With that out of the way, here are 5 things you may not know about J-pop. Japan is the world's second largest music market with total sales equaling $2.4 billion in 2022 alone, 66% of which were physical sales across different formats. It's an industry estimated to be worth around $26.2 billion, which may be surprising to Westerners considering J-pop's success is largely contained within Japan. However, it's important to think of the Japanese music industry as its own little world within music, similarly to how the US music industry is its own little world as well. Both countries are so good at making money within their respective territories. They write and produce music culturally relevant to their consumers. They both have models set up that don't make them necessarily reliant on foreign and international artists, although they certainly are important. There are 4 main sub-industries within the Japanese music industry in which revenue is generated: publishing, recording, live music, and other miscellaneous avenues. Over 90% of all live and recording sales revenues come directly from domestic acts, whereas an estimated 20 to 25% of generated revenues in music publishing come from international artists. So yes, acts like Mariah Carey, BTS, Twice, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift, and the Beatles have all achieved massive success within Japan, but they are not where the majority of revenue comes from. Although it will be interesting to see what the economic impact of the Eras Tour will be, considering what it's done so far everywhere else. Japan is still the biggest consumer of physical music, contributing 80% of all music consumption within the Japanese music industry. As of 2022, streaming only made up less than 10% of generated revenue. The J-pop industry is its own self-sustaining ecosystem, and if you're wondering why it doesn't try to go out of its way and appeal to Western artists, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because it's doing fine on its own. If you're a Western music fan listening to a J-pop song for the first time, you may be put off a little bit, and that's because J-pop is very culturally relevant to itself in sound. It's also a very, very large umbrella term, much like K-pop can be, as both genres encompass so many different styles and sounds. Although J-pop specifically does have a few identifiers besides just being sung in Japanese. J-pop, as we know it today, evolved from traditional Japanese music called Kaio-kyoku before the term J-pop was officially coined in the 1990s. When we think J-pop, a lot of people might assume high-speed tempos, awkward chord changes, and fast electronic sounds, and while those are staples of the genre, J-pop is a lot more than that. J-pop was heavily inspired by rock music of the 1950s and 60s with acts like the Beach Boys and the Beatles. J-rock and J-pop can sometimes be used interchangeably, as J-rock music performs strongly on J-pop charts and J-pop frequently incorporates rock music, so I know that can be confusing, but just know they can be used interchangeably. But much like how K-pop can incorporate sounds like R&B, pop, rock, dubstep, etc., J-pop can too. It even has its own subgenres of music like Vocaloid, which is what Hatsune Miku falls under. So J-pop can incorporate a variety of modern and Western styles, but also elements of classical, hip-hop, traditional Japanese music, and so many other genres. J-pop as a whole can even include foreign styles like K-pop into its overall mold too, depending on the artist. You'll probably hear the key changes, higher pitched singing, which is actually supposed to mimic traditional Japanese songs and is sort of like a leftover relic. But basically, turn on a J-pop playlist on Spotify of songs you've never heard before, and you'll be in for a surprise every time. You might even see your own J-pop song there via DistroKid. DistroKid is one of the leading music distributors on the market, helping artists like you and me get our music up on streaming platforms like TikTok, Spotify, and Apple Music. For one small yearly price, you can deliver as much music as you want to as many stores as you'd like. Depending on which plan you decide is right for you, you'll also gain access to a whole library of additional features to help you grow, manage, and promote your music. One such fantastic feature is DistroKid's Spotify Canvas Generator. Have you ever been streaming a song on Spotify and wondered how those looping videos play on screen in the background? Well, you can create your own really easily with the Spotify Canvas Generator. Simply search across tons and tons of videos ready for you to use. You'll be able to scroll through and find the perfect one that best matches your song and vibe. You can adjust the timing up to 8 seconds, and then you can download them in the perfect format ready to go. Then just jump over to Spotify for Artists and upload your Canvas, creating a really cool and free visual to your track for fans to enjoy. Use my special VIP link to save yourself 7% on your first year's membership with DistroKid. Link is in the description. Idol culture in J-pop is a lot different than K-pop. I've done a whole video on the differences and similarities between K-pop and J-pop already, but the model K-pop uses for training idols before debuting actually has its roots in J-pop. In K-pop, idols are essentially expected to be images of perfection and are trained extensively before debuting in a group or as a solo act. In Japan, however, this is quite different. J-pop idols are supposed to, typically speaking of course, show their growth and development before and after debuting. Japanese audiences like growing with an idol and essentially love the zero to hero mindset. Idols are trained before debuting, but in regards to idol groups like AKB48, Nogizaka 46, Morning Musume, and more, idols usually start out as natural appearing as possible. Of course, there are always exceptions, but being able to see that growth in real time is what J-pop idols are more or less expected to show. Also, idol groups are not like K-pop. J-pop idol groups can have a set number of members as low as 2 or 3, like Baby Metal for example, or they can have several hundred with different teams and generations within the same group, like HKT48, a Fukuoka-based sister group to AKB48. In these larger groups, members will perform for any number of years and then graduate when they reach a certain age. For women, this is around the age of 25, and for male idols, it's anywhere between 30 to 45. Graduating just means leaving the group essentially, but it's typically seen as more favorable and as a happy thing rather than terminating a contract or withdrawing. Similarly to K-pop, idols are still regarded as role models though, regardless of experience, and are rigorously controlled by their agencies. Unlike K-pop idols though, J-pop idols also aren't necessarily regarded in the same way as other industry pros or acts outside of the idol industry within Japan. It depends on the person, of course, but if you thought being a J-pop idol was somehow easier than being a K-pop idol, think again. Turns out the expectations for both are pretty difficult and strict. If you're a K-pop fan, you've probably heard certain terminology among fans like bias, meaning someone's favorite member in a group. Japan has its own equivalents of these things too. A number plus the word nin refers to how many members are in a group. Bias is also used among international fans of J-pop, but domestically fans will use ichiban, which literally means number 1 in Japanese, to describe their favorite member. Oshimen is also used more for female idols. Kamiban is used to describe your favorite idol in all of J-pop. PV used to mean promotional video, and it means the same thing as MV, which means music video. Nowadays though, MV is most commonly used. A J-pop fan is usually referred to as a wota, which anime and manga fans may know comes from the word otaku. DD is short for daremo daisuki, which means you love all the group members equally. The list goes on from there. The fan-idol connection is viewed as something similar to that of supporting a loved one, buying their music in order to see them happy. Of course, there are obsessive fans and people who don't like when an idol reveals they're a real human being. I mean, shows unfavorable parts of their personal lives like dating somebody, but generally speaking, it's like supporting a friend grow. Not unlike a few other music industries I can think of. Just like K-pop has YG, JYP, SM, and HYBE, or the US has Universal Music Group, Sony, and Warner Music, Japan also has a few major talent agencies. Avex Inc. is one you might be familiar with, as the agency's record label Avex Trax has signed several K-pop artists for Japanese promotions. Avex Inc., however, is a large entertainment conglomerate based in Tokyo. Avex is actually an acronym for the English words audio visual expert and has had several several international deals beyond K-pop. Most notably, in the late 90s, they handled the Japanese releases for artists signed to Walt Disney and Hollywood Records. Every year in August, Avex holds its own music festival known as A-Nation, in which some of the biggest artists on its roster perform. Another notable J-pop agency, Amuse Inc., is home to several notable acts like Gen Hoshino, Perfume, and Baby Metal, all of which have produced #1 albums. Lapone Entertainment is responsible for the TV show Produce 101 Japan. The show launched JO1 into the J-pop scene, and as of this recording, the group has achieved 7 consecutive #1 hit singles on the Oricon charts. Johnny & Associates is one of the largest agencies in the country, producing several male idols and groups, most notably Arashi, one of the most decorated and popular idol groups in Japan. J-pop's got a lot to it, more than meets the eye. So if you learned anything new today, let me know in the comments. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Mata ne!